At the outset, can I second the government motion, formally second it? The great scandal of our age, the great tragedy of our age, and the horror in human terms has been the treatment of migrants, whether it's the most ultimate is the drowning, people who drown for wanton neglect and for misadventure and too many people on boats, etc. People who are trafficked for sexual purposes, people who are enslaved in various ways. And it is the scandal of our time. And I do salute the independent, or the civil engagement group for bringing forward this motion. I think it's an excellent and untimely discussion. I will say that the horror that obviously that's in all our minds at the moment is the recent drownings. And as Senator Loughlin mentioned 82, I had a note that said 78, but it's a lot more, I'm afraid. And in actual fact, since 1993, 50 from the excellent article written by Sally Hayden, we note that 51,000 to the Irish Times recently have died since 1993. 27,000 have died since 2014. And those who haven't died experience extraordinary trauma. 84% of those who died are officially rather unidentified, or not identified officially, which is a horror in itself. And there's obviously huge human suffering in there, and they belong to families, as Sally Hayden correctly points out, etc. And that we can't ignore. I want to say one thing that I'm very proud of is I'm proud of the Irish mindset. What I was very proud of in all the villages and towns across this country, recently, I know it was the question of the Ukrainian displaced people, but there were also the Syrian refugees and various refugees in villages and towns. What was interesting was not that there was a little protest or right-wing grouping making a protest, but what was interesting, including in my own village, that in excess of 99% of the population had no hand act or part in such protests and embraced people. And I think we can be very proud of Ireland in that regard. We have every reason for that to be the case when we remember the 1 million people who were forced out in emigration and at the famine, and the 1 million who died on the coffin ships and all of that. We have every reason. It's in our psyche, and we should be the way we are. But it's worth, in passing, taking a bow, if you like, as a people, and maybe us public reps reinforcing and congratulating the people. There's been a focus on what the few people who protested. There's not been a focus on the silent, vast majority who had no hand act or part in it. So I'm very proud of that. There's a mindset issue in Europe, really, because of our demographic now, because of the labour shortages, etc. In fact, we should embrace and realise that there is need for migration, or there is need for new people to come into Europe. This was something that was recognised by Angela Merkel, but it needs to be recognised across Europe, that we need people to come in various sectors, in the hospitality sector, right across, intensive agriculture, you name it. There's a huge labour shortages across the board, right through Europe. You have an interesting demographic, a shrinking population, an ageing population. You have a highly educated population, a lot of whom won't take on roles. So there needs to be a changed mindset there. And we also need another change of mindset. There should be that welcoming mindset and see them as an opportunity. But we also have to look to relieving the debt on the countries where these people are being pushed out. And we have to look at development policies. We need Marshall aid plans for the countries from which the migrants are being pushed out of. And that needs to be done. I don't think the purpose of the government motion is not so much to disagree in principle, to take issue with the broad thesis. That's not an issue, but it's to put a bit of focus on what the EU have been doing. And the EU agreement on migration and asylum there's been a recent agreement. The Oireachtas have opted in. There's a European Agency for Asylum was completed on the 22nd of March 2023. The Home Affairs, and the 8th of June, and our minister here was one of those, the Home Affairs ministers reached agreement, and I assume you'll elucidate that later, Minister, on two of the most central legislative acts of the Asylum Migration Pact, the Asylum and Migration Management Regulation and the Asylum Regulation APR. So these initiatives are important. It will have to, our approach has to be a Europe-wide one. We have to be a part of a Europe-wide response. We cannot respond in isolation to the European situation, and I suppose the point of the amendment is to emphasise that. The point of the amendment is not to challenge the central thesis, it's not to challenge the contention that this is a crisis, a human crisis, that it's an attack on humanity, that it's evil and wrong on all fronts. That's not the challenge, but the challenge is to more bring into focus what the EU will be doing. But there is need, as Senator Loughlin says, to do more. Of course there's need to do more. I think there's a need for a change of mindset. There's a need for a new approach to the countries that are the source of the migrants in terms of martial aid, of development, of relieving the debt. I think the debt that they're being held under by the International Monetary Fund, and a number of the countries are crippled by that debt, and that needs to be looked at. I also think there needs to be a change of mindset in Europe on what the potential of the migrants to enhance our society is. So I think it's a worthwhile debate, Lasker Hirlock, and at that I'll leave it, and I think it's a subject to which we should return often.